Hey guys, welcome back to Convos. Oh my god.
Welcome
Welcome
back
back
to
to
Curse
Curse Convos.
Convos. Today we got some stories for y'all. It's gonna be like 3. It's gonna be a couple short story ones, a couple mid story ones.
Y'all better be fucking grateful too. Keep on a little too strong. Sorry. Nerves took over.
And this time around we got our stories from r/no-sleep on Reddit. And hopefully they're gonna be good. Hopefully we got some bangers. If y'all have suggestions, again, let us know. And we're gonna go in order. I'm gonna start us off with I found a phone and I saw terrifying things. This is posted by Flaggy W. For the past few days, I have this unshakable feeling of being watched constantly. Don't get me wrong, I checked everything and nothing seemed out of place, but the feeling won't leave me alone. There's nothing wrong with my mental state. I'll break it down for you. I've always been athletic ever since school. Even though I graduated college years ago, I kept my workout routine solid and maintained my health and discipline. Running is my go-to exercise, mainly because I love it, but also because gym memberships are ridiculously expensive. There's this park where I train every day. It's small, but I like it. Being outdoors gives me some quiet, some peace, time to clear my head. But there's a downside. It's an old park, built decades ago, and sometimes the lights go out. When that happens, I either cancel my run or find somewhere else to go. Back to my story. I had just finished my run and I was walking towards the park entrance. It was late, 8:43 p.m. I don't know if time is important, but I feel like I should mention everything. If something happens to me, I want you to know all the details. That night, the park was empty. It's never empty. Usually there are people walking their dogs, riding bikes, just hanging around. But not that night. Just me, the benches, and the lampposts lining the path. As I slowed my pace, something hit my shoe. I looked down and saw it. A phone. Not a smartphone, but one of those old ones with a tiny screen and keyboard. I picked it up. Maybe I could find the owner's info and return it. As I scrolled through the menu, a notification popped up. I clicked it without thinking. My stomach dropped. It was a picture of me, took from my back. Someone had sent it to this phone. The number was hidden. How? Before I could react, I heard something behind me. A whistle. 3 sharp high notes. It pierced through the silence and sent chills down my spine. My heart stopped. My brain screamed one word. Run. I bolted, full speed. I glanced back once. There's nothing, no one. And yet, there was. I can't explain it. I saw something, a figure, tall, too tall, dressed in black, standing by the bushes, watching me from a neighbor's yard. But it wasn't human. The shape was human, but the proportions were wrong. The head was too long, stretched vertically, 3 times the length of a normal person's skull. The arms were ridiculously thin and long. Maybe I was dizzy from running, but I swear it was real. It was staring at me with no eyes at all, just 2 hollow cavities looking at me. I sprinted all the way home, 14 minutes. I barely remember getting inside, locking the door, and collapsing onto the couch. And the phone? I brought it with me. Biggest mistake of my life. I told myself I wouldn't touch it again unless someone called. Maybe I could return it and be done with these weird stuff. I showered, went to bed, passed out immediately from exhaustion. Everything was fine, until a noise woke me up. Glass shattering from the kitchen. I flinched, heart racing. I don't have pets, no kids around. My neighbors are all old. No one should be in my house. I got up slowly. The floor creaked under my steps. Then, the whistle. Same 3 notes, lower this time. The sound grew louder with every step I took until, by the 9th step, it stopped, replaced by breathing from inside the walls. I froze. My own breath caught in my throat. The breathing went on for 30 long seconds. Then, a whisper from the next room. When I finally stepped into the kitchen, nothing was broken, just a plate sitting in the middle of the counter. I stared at it, confused, too tired to care. I went back to bed. The next morning, it was still there. I put it away. Weird, but harmless. Then it happened again. The next morning, the same plate, same spot. Then again. By the third day, I started to feel sick, like something was wrong with me, like I was being pulled into something I couldn't escape. Then May 17th happened. That night, the phone rang. I picked it up. Silence. 30 seconds. Then a cough. And a voice. Low, raspy. Andrew, I see you. My blood turned to ice. I hung up.
It's me, Grandpa. It's me.
Open the door, Andrew. You locked the door on me again.
Andrew, I will fuck you up. Open the door.
My blood turned to ice. I hung up. How come he knows my name? Hands shaking, heart pounding. I stared at the phone, willing it to disappear. Then my own phone buzzed. A notification. A photo. Taken from the top corner of my room. Like a security camera shot. I could see myself lying in bed staring at my phone. I looked up. Nothing was there. Then, another notification. A text. Like what you see? I screamed. Called 911. The cops came, searched my house. Nothing. They stayed all night. I didn't feel safe, even with them there. Morning came. The plate was back. But this time there was something written on it. A number. Drawn in dark red ink. Or something else. I scrubbed it, but as the water hit the plate, I realized it wasn't ink. It was blood. The next day, another plate, another number. It was different though. It was written with human nails. Then 4. That time, the nails were swapped with eyes. Human eyes. Then 3. No numbers anymore, but organs. Fresh. Moving. As if they were ripped out seconds before. By then, I was getting photos of myself sleeping every night. Then day 2 came. The plate disappeared. I received the call. I picked up. The voice whispered, 2. Then a message, a photo. I opened it. A human face, cautiously peeled off from a head. I ran, left my house, booked a hotel. I'm here now writing this. It's 9:21 p.m. I can't do this anymore. Tomorrow is day 1. I know what's coming. If you see me on the news, know this. Never pick up a phone from the street.
Wait, so you say, oh, so it has 69 upvotes? I thought it had 69 downvotes. Oh, and I was
Right. It's like, yeah, the pacing of it's like this happened, then this happened, and then this happened. It was just like so bad to read.
Yeah. What was the story called again? So,
I found a phone and I saw terrifying things.
good story. 3 out of 10 Rotten Tomatoes. Next one.
No hard feelings for the writer. I
Keep
mean,
it
you
up,
could
man.
like, yeah, with enough time, like just more meat, cause like, you know,
Yeah, add
there's
some more
nothing
meat
here.
on that bone, bro. Come on. Right
Give
now,
us like
you just got
rough
a
draft.
head, bro. You don't got no shaft to lean on. You just got a straight head.
All right, that was the first story. Now Little Chips is gonna get the second one.
All right, guys. Today we have Mirror Mirror on the Wall by F Mintar1. Shout out to you. Hopefully your story's a banger. Have you ever wondered what your reflection does behind a mirror if it's not being observed? Does it have thoughts? Does it have activities on its own? Does it have any emotions, free will? Does it plot for your doom? Unfortunately, these questions are left unanswered because reflection does what it's supposed to be doing whenever it's being observed. To mirror your every move, to succumb to whatever you wanted it to do, whether it likes it or not. Speaking of mirrors, I'm sure you know by now how to differentiate between one-way mirror versus two-way mirror. The trick is to touch the mirror, and based on the distance between your finger and the reflection, you can tell what kind of mirror it is. If you can touch your own reflection, it's a two-way mirror, and most likely there's another person on the other side of the mirror looking through. If there's a gap, then it's a true mirror, and you should be safe. Now, here's the thing. There's a reason why there's a gap between you and your reflection if you tried this method in front of a one-way mirror. It's not about the layer of glass thickness or the reflective coating behind the glass, but it's a forced barrier created to keep things the way it's supposed to be. It's a protective barrier to keep the things inside the mirror from ever coming out. What if I told you that there's such a thing called a false two-way mirror? Like I mentioned above, if you touch a two-way mirror, you will be able to touch your own reflection. However, if you touched a false two-way mirror, in an instant you will switch places with the being before you. That being will take over your body, your job, your family, your life, practically everything that you have. All of the above questions that are left unanswered, you will find out the truth once you are living inside that mirror. How do I know? Well, I was once a victim of the body swapping.
Dun dun dun.
Crazy biz. It happened so quickly, I almost didn't realize it happened to me. All I remembered was, here is a random mirror in a bathroom stall. To satisfy my curiosity to find out if a mirror is see-through, I touched that dirty mirror with my index finger, and before I knew it, I lost control of myself. And everything around me is no longer what it was supposed to be. All the words are mirrored. Whatever I see on the right side before, now are on the left side. It gave me a major headache for a moment. However, that was nothing compared to what's going on afterwards. I realized that I have no control over my own body anymore. I was moving against my free will. I couldn't control myself, and the next thing that happened was I looked at myself in the mirror, brandishing a devilish look and an evil smile. It was so sinister, but so am I. I realized that I am also brandishing the same look and the same smile, but actually, I was hurting myself physically. It was so grotesque and wide that it felt like my mouth was about to be split open. It feels like I'm in a trance. Everything that I do from the moment on is against my free will. I soon found out that I am actually doing everything that my used to be reflection does. The only thing that I am in control of is my own thoughts. Even when I'm not in front of any mirrors, looking at the being that took over my body, I am still powerless to control myself. I am basically a puppet to my own reflection. Here's a weird discovery though. Everything in the mirror world that's considered edible has the exact opposite taste. What used to be sweet is bitter in this world. Savory flavored foods became unsavory. It was pure torture, as the only thing that probably tastes good in this world is trash. But what are the chances my reflection is going to eat that? Another discovery was I have to reflect whatever my reflection wants to see in front of any weirdly shaped reflecting objects, no matter what. If the reflecting object is bent in such a way that the reflection appears tall, I stretch my spinal column so that my body appears tall, and the pain is agonizing. If the reflection appears short, my spinal column is crushed so that I appear short. If there's rain, my body separates into smaller pieces, and I move at a really fast pace from one place to another, resulting in the worst vertigo I've ever felt. All of these experiences are agonizing and truly the most painful experience, but I have no control over it. I was basically in hell, accompanied by my own thoughts. I can't yell, ask for help, cry, run away, or escape from this nightmare. I can only count the days of how long I was trapped in this world. So far, it has been 1 month. And from the way my reflection takes over my life, it does not look like it has any idea of what it's doing. It got me in trouble at my workplace, yelled at by my parents, fought with my girlfriend, and basically just slowly ruined my life. After the second month, I started to lose hope, and I just started to let my mind wander, not caring anymore what my reflection does until something fortunate happened. There it was, my reflection, stared at me in front of a random mirror, taunting me until a random stranger accidentally bumped it and unknowingly touched the mirror, touching me just like that in an instant. I escaped the mirror world, and my reflection was back where it belongs. As soon as I realized I was back in my own body, living in my own world, taking back my life, I instantly broke down in tears. I didn't realize that I was in a random public bathroom and people were staring, but I did not care. A wave of relief washes over me, and I'm sure I gave time to my reflection to grieve as well, for being back in the mirror world, where it belongs. Unfortunately, the damage my reflection has done for the past 2 years. Wait, what? Damn, 2 years? Unfortunately, the damage my reflection has done for the past 2 years is somewhat irreversible. I was laid off from my job, broke up with my girlfriend, and kicked out of my parents' house. Currently living in a car. However, this is minimal compared to being trapped inside the mirror world. I can still get another job, find another girlfriend, and repair the relationship with my parents, as long as I have control of my own body. So there you have it, folks. While it is important to check if there's someone behind the mirror spying on you, it's best to not make eye direct contact with any mirrors. Use an object as a medium between you and your reflection so it won't take over your life. Moreover, watch out for your surroundings. Pay attention to any living beings around you. If they started behaving out of character, they might just be a reflection that has switched bodies with their humans. If your suspicions are accurate, then you know what to do to rescue your friends. But tread carefully. You don't want to accidentally force your friends to live in that awful mirror world. Oh, that was such a doozy.
Like you were shocked as well whenever it said like for the past 2 years. I was like, whoa, it's been that long. Like, I feel like he didn't really get into the details. He kind of just dropped it all at once. You know, it was just kind of like yeah, I went into this world and like the most descriptive thing he said was like the tastes and
Yeah.
uncanny looks,
mean,
I guess you could say, because he had like a wide smile, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. So,
it didn't seem too bad. I mean, like obviously at the end, like yeah, it did cause him to like ruin his life, but I mean, it is interesting. Like the only way out of it is to like have someone else touch the mirror, so
or accidentally
bumps
them
into it.
touch it. Your reflection touches a mirror, or yeah, if somebody accidentally bumps them into a mirror, so that way you can swap places. I mean, overall, it was a decent story. Not bad.
Yeah,
I
it's
feel like
decent. It's decent.
I agree with you. Should have. I mean, it probably would have been better even if you just made some bullshit up of what he did to fuck up your
Like
life in more into
yeah,
detail. Probably would have had
like maybe
way
like
more.
at nights he tortured his parents and did some weird shit, like you know, like
Yeah,
just something out of the
exactly.
norm. But
Yep.
this is the editor's cut. And I totally forgot the part where he takes different forms of different reflections, which puts him through like a torture thing, just constantly changing and contorting. So, I mean, I thought that was super cool. Like, I can't believe I forgot that. Instantly brought up my opinion. I originally gave it a 4.5 or something like that, but it's like instant like 7 probably. And honestly, I think Little Chips agrees because he gave it a 6, but you know, I'm pretty sure it goes way higher now. But okay, anyways, on to the video.
Good story.
And
Good story.
yeah, another round of claps, round of claps. Final story, we got The Death Experiment, and it is written by Platinum Oni. Okay.
Oni-chan.
Senpai? No. Okay.
Keep it in. Keep it in. Keep it in.
No, I'm not. Nope. Masculinity, it can't take a drop.
Yeah. All right.
The Death Experiment. Humanity, in my opinion, is the foulest creature walking this planet. Now, before you try to dismiss this as mere misanthropy, let me make one thing clear. I do not hate humanity, nor do I hate the achievements of great men like Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. They are exceptions, proof that not all humans are foul. However, I do believe that humans, by nature, are careless creatures, no matter how cautious one may try to be. Carelessness is an inherent part of human nature, and sometimes that carelessness can lead to evil that cannot be undone. Because of such carelessness, 12 years ago, I witnessed how I almost became the devil himself, and it all happened in less than 24 hours. 12 years ago, right. I've had both good and bad years in my life, but 12 years ago was by far the worst. It was a relentless conga line of misfortune directed straight at me. First, our family pet died. Then, I was dismissed from the police force after unintentionally accepting a bribe. And lastly, the worst misfortune of all, my younger brother was murdered. For 2 years, a psychopath named Liam terrorized Arizona with a series of the most gruesome and disturbing murders in the state's history. The bastard was essentially an unstoppable train of violence, mowing down anyone in his path, day in and day out, young or old, stabbed or butchered. It didn't matter to him. All that mattered was killing. He didn't care how people reacted. You know Michael Myers, right? Liam was like that. No motive, no reason, nothing. He just killed. And that was what made his crimes so disturbing. He didn't kill for money. He didn't kill for enjoyment. He just killed. Ultimately, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. While awaiting trial, he was transferred to a different prison far from my city. Aside from the fact that he was locked up, I knew nothing about him. No details, no prison location, nothing. But knowing he would die, I stopped tracking Liam and focused on rebuilding my life. Weeks passed as I searched for a job. I hired consultants, asked friends for suggestions, yet I made no progress. That was until my old friend Henry entered the scene. Henry was always a strange fellow, like Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter, minus the whole dark wizard thing. He had the highest grades in every subject, science, math, English, you name it. Yet after graduating from college, the next thing we heard was that he was working as a cashier at Walmart. Then he disappeared for a few years. When he returned, he was the owner of a private but large-scale biology lab, partnered with various research facilities worldwide, even some sponsored by the government. As the head scientist of the laboratory, he suddenly reached out to me, nearly 2 decades after we lost connection. Henry was the only person from the lab I knew. His younger and supposedly smarter brother, Harvey, led a more public life. In fact, I had known him since he witnessed my brother's murder. The very case that sent Liam to the slammer. Ever since that day, we had been fast friends. Meeting him was what ultimately led Henry back into my life during such dark times. Harvey may have told Henry about my situation, how I lost my job. A casual conversation about life gradually shifted to my financial troubles, and he quickly figured out that I had been struggling ever since losing my position as a policeman. He pitied me but also mocked me for the mistake that had reduced me to be an unemployed, good-for-nothing scum of the earth. But the moment I mentioned that I was an ex-cop, his expression changed. His interest peaked, and he told me that, as an ex-cop, he could actually solve my money problems, and that solution was to work at his biology lab. At first, I was skeptical. When he mentioned the position of assistant, I assumed that he had mistakenly thought I was a biologist, or expected me to conduct experiments and write reports on DNA or some shit. But it turned out to be much simpler than that. I was to be a watchman. My only duty was to patrol the vicinity and ensure no trespassers entered the premises. That's when my suspicion first kicked in. A simple watchman job for a laboratory. It sounded too generous, but I needed the money. As if Henry could read my mind. He immediately proposed a decent salary, with the one condition: I had to stay at the lab and perform my duties without returning home until the scientists decided to halt the project. That was the first major red flag. If they needed a watchman to stay on site, It meant the lab was somewhere far, isolated. The second red flag, this wasn't just a research facility. Maybe it was on the surface, but something else was going on. Something that required secrecy. And for some reason, they wanted me to be a part of that secret. I accepted the offer for two reasons. One, obviously, was the money. The second, to find out what the hell they were actually doing in that lab. Everything Henry had told me so far screamed that something fishy, something immoral was happening there. They weren't hiring me for protection. They were hiring me to keep the secret hidden. Then Henry asked for my home address. That's when I noticed the third red flag. They weren't letting their workers drive to the lab. They were bringing them in. That meant that they didn't trust their own employees enough to know the lab's location. They intended to keep it that way, but I had no choice. No matter how suspicious it all sounded, my money problems were suffocating me. I needed this job. That night, Henry returned to the lab and sent me a message that the rest of his partners would be waiting for me outside my home at 4 o'clock. Immediately, I went to bed and dreamed about my younger days. What woke me from my restful sleep was the sound of rain and thunder at 3:30 a.m. I took a warm shower, got dressed, and waited in the rain until a small white van stopped in front of my doorstep. From the driver's seat emerged a man wearing a scientist's coat. Without hesitation, I hopped in and noticed the GPS directing us to an address I had never heard of, an hour outside the city. Soon, we left the district of skyscrapers and entered the depths of the Arizona wilderness. A few cars followed us for a while but eventually veered off toward another city. Our vehicle, however, didn't stop for another 10 minutes until we turned onto a dirt path. 5 minutes later, we arrived at this checkpoint, an actual checkpoint in the middle of nowhere. The sight of it felt like something out of a After Humans documentary, where nature begins reclaiming abandoned buildings after humanity ceased to exist. But then the gate opened. The driver pulled up in front of what appeared to be a garage, with a keypad mounted beside it. He enters a combination, and the door slowly lifted to reveal an iron door. Above it, a phrase was inscribed, Memento Mori. I stepped inside and found myself in a small laboratory, filled with scientists analyzing human anatomy and various biological specimens. Animals were caged, bacteria suspended in cylinders. The entire room resembled an oval-shaped parliament chamber, but at the center stood something that made me freeze. A man was tied to a chair. He wore a prisoner's jumpsuit. His expressions caught between peace and pain. A wave of resentment surged through me. Liam. Henry approached me with a knowing smile, as if he understood exactly what kind of history I had with this man. Trying to calm me down, he handed me a cup of tea. What is he doing here? And what is this place? I asked, keeping my voice steady. For your first question, he's our test subject. And since he's a death row inmate, nobody gives a damn about him, Henry said. As for the second question, this is a biology lab. I narrowed my eyes. And what does biology have to do with human experimentation? Not much, but when I say biology, I don't mean human biology, anatomy or whatever. Those subjects are covered in hundreds, thousands of textbooks, Henry said, glaring at me with a serious expression. We are exploring immortality. Wow, I muttered, both because he expected me to believe this, wow, and because they were actually doing this, wow. Henry then showed me multiple anatomical diagrams of the human body, along with various bits of information that had led him to explore the concept of achieving immortality. According to Henry, there were historical accounts from olden day France. During the era when the guillotine was used for executions, the executioner, after placing a severed head in a basket, would sometimes ask the deceased for a response, at which point the head would allegedly blink. Theories suggest this was due to rigor mortis, but Henry claimed it was far too common to be dismissed as just that. From there, Liam developed a theory. Before death, there exists a state in which a person is nearly fully alive nor dead, a kind of purgatory between life and death. This led to another theory regarding near-death experiences. Liam believed that all those who reported such experiences may have entered this purgatory state, meaning that while they were still alive in some form, they were also simultaneously dead. Stories of people waking up in coffins hours after being declared dead were also considered possible cases of this phenomenon. The lab's goal was to investigate the state by inducing it and studying its effects on the body. They had developed a drug using complex chemistry, one capable of stopping the heart while keeping the subject conscious. Henry explained that if Liam could enter this state under controlled conditions, they might be able to uncover crucial aspects of it by monitoring his brain activity, air circulation, and blood flow. The ultimate goal was to find a way to sustain this state in a manner that allowed humans to function normally, potentially unlocking the key to immortality. It was a bizarre concept, but it didn't matter to me. I was just a security guard ensuring no one enters the premises. No science knowledge was needed. Henry told me he wanted me on duty 6 days a week, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and gave me a list of housekeeping rules. Patrol routes included patrolling both outside and inside every 20 minutes, with a 10-minute break every 40 minutes. Lunch was scheduled for 12 p.m., dinner at 7 p.m. Breakfast had to be eaten before patrol began, lights out at 11 p.m. Any sound outside after those hours was something worth investigating. Another 20 minutes were spent going over more rules, no touching lab equipment, and most importantly, no touching the lab rat. Since today was my first day, I was given the opportunity to explore the lab before my shift started tomorrow. The lab was located in the middle of nowhere, but according to the scientists, urban explorers sometimes stuck their noses into the place. Since they weren't exactly conducting ethical experiments, explaining their work to outsiders was difficult. So, they hired me to make it look like I was a state-appointed patrol officer tasked with guarding the private facility. The laboratory operated 24/7. Most scientists worked 4 days straight, taking on various roles before getting a 3-day break. For the sake of secrecy, many stayed in dorms within the lab during their shifts and only traveled home on their days off. That was the basic housekeeping routine of the lab. The experiment started at 9 a.m. It usually involved Liam being put into a coma while the scientist used a display device to show images of what he was experiencing in his half-dead state, like some kind of dream reading machine. Due to human limitations, Liam could only remain half-dead for up to 5 minutes before being given a 10-minute break each time he resurrected. I watched as the first experiment began. Liam lay motionless, and the scientist stared at the monitor, waiting to see his dying dream. He was walking down an empty corridor, surrounded by shifting colors. This kind of experience was common for people who had been on the verge of dying. Henry had met several individuals who described similar dreamlike states when they were near death. And that was the key. Henry intended to use this state and Liam's condition to explore the in-between. Perhaps there was something that had yet to be understood. Something left unexplored in the liminal space between life and death. The first experiment ended, and the projection was recorded onto a VHS tape. Scientists with expertise in magic, mythology, and religion will later analyze it to decipher what they had witnessed. Heaven or hell, limbo or purgatory. In the first experiment, Liam's dream projection depicted him walking through a corridor of swirling colors. The second and third experiments played out in a similar way. Each time, half-dead Liam wandered through a realm of colorful darkness, an ever-changing corridor of shifting hues. The first time, the corridor was black. The second, red. The third, green. His liminal state between life and death kept shifting, but one thing remained constant. When Liam reached the end of his purgatorial corridor, he was always faced with 2 passageways. One illuminated just enough to see, the other shrouded in pitch black darkness. Liam's first break happened at lunchtime. While the scientists went to the cafeteria, I stayed behind in the chamber. As soon as the room was empty, I grabbed him by the shirt. "How does it feel to die over and over again, you bastard?" Silence. For a moment, I wondered if he even knew how to speak, if he was mute, or if whatever the scientists had done to him, combined with whatever he had experienced in purgatory, had shocked him to the point of needing recovery. It didn't matter to me what happened to him or how he felt. In my eyes, he was nothing but a repulsive monster. One of the scientists noticed me screaming at Liam, who must have thought I was there to feed him. The scientist handed me a sandwich for Liam to eat. I passed it to him, his handcuffs restricting his movements, though he could still shuffle his feet. Watching him eat only made my anger flare even more. You killed a man, and you still want to eat, you motherfucker? Why are you so mad, sir? Liam asked, his voice polite, far more polite than I ever expected from such a heinous prick. It made me even angrier. This time I lunged at him, throwing punches. Scientists restrained me, discussing how horrible he was, but reminding each other that they shouldn't be hitting someone who was part of their project. As soon as I told my side of the story, they all went silent. At first, they looked as if they were about to dismiss me, but instead they gave me a warning, and everything seemingly ended well. I decided to patrol, to clear my mind, to forget that prick. Now I regretted taking this job, and yet, at the same time, I feel something new inside of me. Something that makes me want to stay. Satisfaction. It's like a drug. The satisfaction of watching Liam die, even temporarily, watching him suffer, being violated and studied. It was intoxicating. As I patrolled, I grinned, waiting for the next experiment to begin.
Alright, pause.
He's having a little villain arc, you know, like, damn.
No, I mean rightfully so, because he
Yeah, I'll
killed
give him
somebody.
that. His
I
brother,
feel
too.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean anybody who fucking kills anybody should be killed back instantly, like no
Or
questions
go through
asked.
hell. Like, you know, if there's no hell, fuck it, we make it for him.
No, yeah, and I mean he's kind of witnessing it, like being killed, brought back to life. Like,
Mm.
good for them.
Yeah.
Anyways,
The scientists returned to the lab at 1, an hour after the lunch break. They did witness a small tantrum I caused by throwing the sandwich I was supposed to feed Liam on the ground. However, they chose to ignore it. Or perhaps they assumed Liam's vulnerable position made it seem insignificant, and then proceeded with their practical work. The scientists began discussing their theories and observations. The prevailing theory was that this was some kind of dying dream. They debated the truth behind what the projector was displaying, whether the events on the screen were simply manifestations of Liam's mind rather than an actual state between the living and the dead. Theologists couldn't provide a definite answer. Some believed Liam was experiencing purgatory, while others took a more scientific approach, arguing that what we witnessed was both explainable and explicable at the same time. Buddhist afterlife concepts played a significant role in this experiment. It was theorized that in his half-dead state, Liam had traveled to the Buddhist hell. According to theologists, at the end of a soul's journey, 7 gates determine its fate. The problem was that, despite conducting multiple experiments, the only noticeable difference in each corridor Liam saw was the color. There's no clear pattern, and we couldn't provide him with the guidance since we all knew he was either in a dreamlike state or truly crossing into the realm of the dead. No matter what happened, it was impossible for us to contact Liam while he was under. Liam described feeling completely empty. He could speak, touch, walk, and perceive his surroundings in his half-dead state. However, his vague description made it difficult to determine if his soul was truly traveling. More importantly, we didn't know whether to believe him or if he was simply humoring us. The night experiments began at 6 p.m. For the first time since the experiment started, Liam appeared genuinely disturbed. While he had been calm during the earlier daytime sessions, I saw something different in his eyes, an unshakable fear, and it disgusted me. The screen projected Liam's perspective again as he went under, but for the first time we noticed a change in his vision. He was running, not walking, running. Despite being dead, we could hear his heavy breathing. 2 minutes passed, 3 minutes. Liam didn't stop. In fact, his pace quickened, and so did his labored breaths. At the 5-minute mark, he suddenly awoke, bolting upright from the seat, only to be restrained by me, making sure he hit his head against the bed in the process. "Why are you frightened?" Henry asked. His calm and respectful demeanor only made my nerves twitch. "I was being chased," Liam muttered. Something was after me. Liam turned to the monitor, watching as his brainwaves visualized the scene. A corridor, but this time he was running. There was no sound. There was no sound. You heard something? I asked, calmer this time. A scream. A crazy scream, Liam said, his voice unsteady. It felt like a demon was chasing me. And for some reason, I wish I could have seen the face of whatever the hell he claimed was chasing him, and taken great satisfaction in watching him be consumed by it, alive or not. I wanted him to feel what I had felt. What he experienced, what he envisioned in the realm between, was exactly how I had felt for months. Being chased, being followed by something disturbing and gruesome. I had the same things happen to me. A nightmare of guilt, the embodiment of guilt, chasing me, dragging me down, possibly to hell. Perhaps this was a sign that Liam felt remorse for killing my brother and others. If that was the case, I had to kill him. The idea that such an infernal existence sought redemption sickened me. My rage wasn't complicated. It was justified. As I mentioned, watching his nightmare was extremely satisfying, but the faces of the scientists told a different story. The scientists replayed the footage the screen had projected, but without any solid evidence. We had no choice but to send Liam back into the realm. And I, angrier than before, crossed my fingers, hoping for an accident, something that would finally send Liam to hell for good. Liam closed his eyes, and we injected the medicine again. The screen once more projected what he was seeing. At first, he was walking normally, for a few minutes at least. Then Liam started running again. This time, something felt different. We could tell something was wrong as his physical body, lying next to us, began to contort, his face twisted in agony, his body going rigid, almost as if rigor mortis had already set in. That was when my pleasure at watching him suffer turned into fear. The screen, which displayed his brain's visual feed, started to change. The previous recordings have shown him staring straight ahead, never looking back. But then, there was a moment. He turned around. For the first time, we saw what was behind him. Liam's journey into the world of the dead was not a solitary one. Something was chasing him. Something, I'd say, because I'd never seen a creature like this before. At first, it resembled a newborn baby, but it was not a baby. Its body was slender, long, unnaturally tall, and legless. Instead of walking, it used what I assume were its hands to crawl toward Liam. Then Liam started running again. This time, the camera focused on the creature, meaning Liam was literally fleeing while keeping his eyes locked on whatever was pursuing him. Just imagining his posture, his face and body moving in different directions like a broken machine, sent chills down my spine. Whatever those creatures were, they were not just a single entity. From the darkness behind Liam, more of those abominations began to chase after them, like spiders. They weren't confined to the ground. Gravity seemed irrelevant to them. They were chasing Liam from all sides of the wall. An entire army of abominations started to hunt him down. The creatures resembled something from The Exorcist, a demon from it, to be exact. They were a grotesque mixture of human centipedes and the horrors from every terrifying movie. No film can truly describe how disturbing those things looked. The creatures began to multiply, perhaps finally revealing the full extent of their numbers. One thing was clear. They were all following, chasing Liam, hunting him. Then, in the distance, something faster and more similar to the other creatures leapt forward and grabbed onto Liam. We recognized this creature as the leader due to its similar features, though it was faster and more powerful despite its smaller size. In an instant, it brought Liam to the ground. Much like a scene from Alien, the leading creature clung to Liam and stared directly at him. The creature spat something onto Liam's face, which covered him and the screen with it. We were confused, staring at the screen in stunned silence. However, that silence was shattered when one of the scientists yelled out, pointing to where Liam was lying. He was choking on something. The scientists rushed to surround him, desperately trying to remove whatever was blocking his air. Was it saliva, or had something else gotten into him? We didn't know. but we knew he was choking, and the scientists were trying to save him. As the scientists tried to reposition Liam, he suddenly threw up. What came out of his mouth was a black goo, something that looked like vomit, yet it was slimy and alive. We recoiled in disgust at the sight. As soon as Liam stopped throwing up, the slime began to move, almost as if it had a mind of its own. The slime leapt up and attached itself to Liam's face. As the scientists released their hold, the slime grew and covered his entire face. It then began to move down his shoulders, engulfing his upper body. By the time the slime reached halfway down Liam's torso, it leapt again, this time attaching to one of the scientist's hands. It spread over his body as well. The slime that had enveloped Liam completely covered him. His screams were muffled, but his struggle was obvious. He was trapped, unable to escape the suffocating mass. The slime on the scientist.
Wait, pause.
Alright.
So the story is good up so far, right?
Okay.
The only thing I was thinking about is like the slime. So why can't it ever be a different color other than black? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's this weird thing about. Like, think about it. Like, every time there's slime included, it's always the color black.
That's not true. In my head,
No,
sometimes I think green.
really?
Yeah,
Okay,
or
well,
blue.
green and black. But like, they could have done like any other color to make it more like
Alien
yeah, like
like.
more extraterrestrial. You know what I'm saying? Like they could have done pink, they could have done red, they could have done fucking
Okay, well, in this sense, it's
blue.
not really extraterrestrial. It's kind of like, in a way, because they brought up Exorcist, right? So in my head, like as the writer, I'm thinking like something with demons or like
Mm,
the other
yeah,
world, or you know, like yeah, like kind of like the upside down world, like how Stranger Things did.
I mean it's fine, but I guess I've just listened to too many stories where they do involve slime or goo, whatever, ectoplasma, but it's always black. It's like, bruh, do a different color.
Yeah,
Like,
it's more
I'm,
it's more creepy, I guess.
I guess, but I guess to me it just seems so bland.
Yeah.
But whatever, fuck me. I'm not the writer. You know, whatever though. Good story, good story. Go.
Okay, so his screams were muffled, but his struggle was obvious. He was trapped, unable to escape the suffocating mass. That's when all hell broke loose. The slime on a scientist's body leapt onto the next person, doing the same thing. People tried their best to remove the slime covering their friends' bodies, but instead of being removed, touching the slime only caused it to consume the person who touched it. Liam fell to the ground, struggling to escape his immovable situation. It felt as if I were witnessing a sentient jelly bean. Muffled noises echoed, and that was when the others, who had been contacted by the slime, were completely covered as well. All of them dropped to the ground, unable to move as their legs were bound by it. The slime jumped to my right hand, and instinctively I knew that if I didn't act, I would meet the same fate. With a pure instinct to get rid of it, I grabbed a knife and immediately sacrificed my hand, fleeing the scene. Bleeding and twitching, I was heading to the infirmary, but what stopped me was the scene unfolding from the experiment zone. The slime that had covered my hand stopped moving, which meant it wasn't the slime that was causing the movement that engulfed the scientists and Liam. They were struggling to escape. Scientists from other parts of the lab rushed to the experiment chamber, attempting to puncture the slime, but to no avail. The more the slime was damaged, the more it jumped, attacking the other scientists and dooming them to the same twisted fate. The few survivors of the slime fled the scene, escaping the lab, and as soon as they ran out of the lab building, that's when I ran out too. 12 years have passed since that day. I now have a prosthetic hand, which is both a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that I can at least manage to live normally without any major problems, make food, type things like this. My physical features became interesting to the people I made new friends with, and that relationship eventually led me to a job as a hotel receptionist. Ever since that day, the police have been coming out to the laboratory to speak with the survivors and try to figure out how on earth they could get rid of the slime covering the scientists and Liam. They tried every method possible, and as a last resort, they blew up the laboratory. But what they found in the debris were the slimes, with the imprisoned people desperately trying to escape. 1 year has passed, and their movement hasn't stopped. The people consumed by the slime continued to move, desperately trying to break free. Surrounded by the slimes, at the center, the largest is the one that consumed Liam. His slime shakes the most. It felt as if they were clinging to hope for survival, hoping they might somehow manage to escape. What they don't know is they cannot leave. We tried methods stronger than human hands, but nothing worked. They are still alive, trapped in the slime, desperately trying to escape. But the sheer bizarreness of the case led the council to decide to bury them in the ground, along with the damned lab. The police ultimately placed a no entry sign where the lab once stood, preventing anyone from discovering such a monstrosity. And ever since that day, I have nightmares. Liam reached out to me before he was completely covered in slime, staring at me with a hate greater than the hate I once had for him. And that is the end.
Yeah.
So they found immortality, but you had to be
Oh,
stuck
what
in
God.
slime. Because they're just stuck
What
like
God.
that forever. Just fucking purgatory in itself. Damn.
Basically, because you're trapped between life and death.
Just
I
shit situation.
mean, can acid kill them? Right?
It's a good.
Like, soak them in a barrel of acid. I mean, if they're already in the slime ball, you might as well just fucking kill them. You know, it sounds fucked up, but
No, yeah,
I
they're
mean,
already kind of fucked, in my opinion. Like,
yeah, because you can't kill the slime to release their soul, so you might as well just do both, which sucks. It's kind of like their own hell, you know?
yeah, just definitely in that shit for like no, Lord knows how long. It could be like forever, like forever. Because if explosions
Yeah.
can't kill it, like what's to say a death of a planet can't kill it? You know, like the implosion of like
Yeah.
Earth, for example. Like slowly, one of these days is gonna implode, and what they're just gonna be drifting through space. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, so you might as well just, I mean, acid is like the strongest thing on Earth. So you might as well just try it in acid and see if it kills just both of them to
Yeah, if it
release
does,
them.
it's good for them. If it doesn't, I mean, it's just the hell,
Then
basically.
you're fucked until whenever.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Good story though.
Damn.
Good story. Fuck. I'll give it like a good 7,
I'd give it an
8,
I'd give it a 7.5 to 8.
7.5.
Pretty good.
Yeah. You know, I'm in the same boat. I'm with
I
that.
mean, the slime part was weird, but I mean, I guess if we're talking,
Yeah.
isekai animations as a slime, you can't really die because they're slimes. So
Engulfed
unless
in
you break the
slime.
core, ooh, yeah, you could break the core. Ooh, but who's
Which
to know
is
where the core
Liam,
is
right?
at?
Because they said that he was the biggest slime. So like I don't know, it might be like the mothership, quote unquote.
Yeah, because usually slimes should come equipped with like of the core at least. So I mean,
Mmm.
everything in life really isn't immortality. So sucks to say, but there's
Mmm.
something there.
Well, this, yeah, the origin of the slime is kind of like fucking unknown. The fact that it came out of a near death experience, like purgatory in a way. Like he was in some kind of realm, and it transferred itself because
Mm.
yeah, we
Yeah,
were playing with it too much.
yeah.
Hmm.
Purgatory is a kind of a scary thing because you're in between life and
Yeah.
death, so you can't theoretically can't die, especially if you're being rejected from both parties, being hell and heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's. Damn. Okay. Whoa.
Good
Shit.
stories though. Good stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Good story. Good story.
If
Hundred
y'all
percent.
enjoyed the episode, leave a like, please. Comment down below. Subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. And, yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. It's been something sick.
And low chips. And we'll catch you
And
on the next one.
we'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Bye, 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 bye.